Today, our message the title is Obedience to Follow the Messiah. Week 3 of our 4-week series on what it looks like to actually follow Jesus. Okay. All right. Who has ever played Simon Says? Okay. Oh, okay. All right. If my son has played Simon Says, so have you. All right. We're not going to do it today. I was going to have you guys do it, but y'all look like you would shoot me if you could. So I'm not going to. However, I'm not going to brag. I am really good at tricking people with Simon Says. It's like on my resume. It's really important. Okay. I'm really good at it. But I'll show you guys next time. What is the point of Simon Says? You're supposed to do what Simon says. And if he doesn't say Simon Says, you're not supposed to do it, right? Pretty simple. That is literally the idea behind today. All of it. Our message today. As you guys noticed, everyone now knows who Jesus is, okay? And there are 3 responses to him. Same thing for us. The crowd that rejected him didn't believe that he would be the Messiah. The ones who are amazed by him from last week, right? Like they brought tons of people to him and they were instantly healed. Think about if you go to the doctor and you go and imagine you're a doctor and every patient you see is healed. Every hospital, everyone comes through, they're healed in instants and they're gone. That's nuts, right? That doesn't happen in our world. That's what happened with Jesus. He literally healed person after person after person, set them free, and they were amazed. And now we see in Luke 5, there's a huge crowd following him. Nowadays would be the equivalent of a huge number of followers on whatever platform, but huge people coming out to find him, to hear him. There's a crowd that's amazed by him, some that are curious about him, but here they are. Now, this week, we're going into the last group of people. The ones who rejected, the ones who are curious, and the ones who actually gave their lives to follow him. There's a difference in how they all responded. So here we are. The question is this. What makes someone go from just being amazed, from being a follower, to actually being someone who knows and follows somebody, lives for that person? There's a difference. One common thing you'll see today as we go into our passage. Let me ask you, who here would say you're an expert on relationships? You are so great at relationships. I have people looking at each other in the room right now. They are saying things through their eyes. I don't know if it's nice or if it's not nice, okay? Who would say they're a relationship expert? All right, Sam. Okay, everyone write letters to Sam to ask your deepest anonymous relationship questions, okay? But here's the thing. To make any relationship work, Sam, what's the most important thing? Nope, it's not the most important thing. It is one important thing. Correct, Gisa, okay, but that's not the point I'm trying to say. That is true. But to make any relationship work, even if it's about money, even if it's about Jesus, those are important things. Those are important values. But how do you actually make values work in a relationship? Thanks, Gisa. To make any relationship actually work, friends, significant other, parents, whatever it is, there has to be both give and take. Both of you have to do something. Both of you have to receive something. It's a 2-way relationship, right? That is the only way it's going to work with good communication around things like money, values, whatever you're talking about, right? But there has to be give and take. If only one person is just giving into a relationship, what happens then? What happens? Most of you are like, oh, that's me. I'm such a giving person. And that person is so not good at giving back, okay? Or whatever it is. You have to make it work both ways, right? Same thing with Jesus. He does his part. He gives in his way only he can do. But we also are called to respond. We also have a responsibility. So anyone in this room who's like, you know what? I know he's real, but I don't hear him. I don't feel anything. I don't know him. Okay. Yes, that's valid. That will happen throughout your Christian walk. But here's the thing. Are you doing your part? You know what they say when you're in a relationship and they're and those friends that because it's not you. It's never you. Like, you're so good. But, like, you know the ones who complain about, like, their relationships to you, and you're like, why? Why? Can you stop talking about this? Okay. But what do you want to say? What do you want to say inside? Nicely, without any swear words. You want to say, yo, you can't change that person, but you can change you. And that's all you're responsible for, right? Same thing with Jesus. He is doing the work. He is speaking to us. Now, sometimes it's hard to understand. It's hard to hear. But we have to do our responsibility. Are we willing to listen? Are we willing to hear? And here we see 3 traits of these disciples, what brought them from the crowd that followed him, that were like, he's so, whoa, kind of curious, to actually truly living for him. This is what helped them shift. So here we see first, the first principle is this. If you go to the next slide. The first principle is that Jesus taught his disciples, but they were, read this to me, they were what? Teachable. Thank you, Giselle. They were teachable. What does the word teachable mean? Do you guys know what the word means? Teachable. Able to be taught, obviously, but willing to learn. Willing to learn. I cannot stress this enough. If you're going to live for Jesus, actually, if you're going to be a decent human being in society, a good part of your company or whatever you're doing, you have to be willing to be what? Teachable. Willing to be teachable. Do you know who the best workers, students, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters are? Do you know who they are? It's you, right? Okay. But you know why? You know why you're the best? Because what? This. You are willing to learn, willing to be humble, willing to hear the hard feedback and make the changes because you're willing to be teachable. I cannot stress this enough. Being a good Christian, being a good functioning human being is being this, willing to be teachable. Now, what's beautiful is that Jesus is the perfect teacher, because there are teachers who will teach you wrong and people who take advantage of you, and that's not okay, right? But he is the perfect teacher. But we must be teachable. So here we are in Luke 5, verse 1. Let's read this passage, okay? Here's the context. One day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. He noticed 2 empty boats at the water's edge. Remember, huge crowd. There's no microphones then, okay? He's got to step back to see all of them. So he goes into one of the boats and he asks Simon, its owner, not coincidence that it's him. And they pushed it out to the water. And so he sat on the boat and taught the crowds from there. Next passage. Go to the next one. Verse 4. When he had finished speaking to the crowd, he turns to Simon now. He says, okay, all right, we're done. Show's over. Now, go out where it's deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish. Master, Simon replied, we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. But if you say so, I'll let the nets down again. And this time, their nets were so full of fish, they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. Who are these 3 men? Peter, also original name was Simon, James, and John. Jesus had how many disciples? Okay. Anyone else? How many disciples did he have? A dozen is how many? 12. Okay. He had 12 core followers. But among those 12 core, there were 3 core, like his closest ones. Who were they? Peter, James, and John. These men. These men, before they chose to follow him, these were the men. Okay? These were the men. Now remember, there was a crowd that had come out to listen to him. But the crowd did not experience what Peter, James, and John experienced. Only they experienced this. Why? Because they were willing not just to listen and hear, but to do what he said. Now, fishing. Who likes fishing? Who's gone fishing? Oh my gosh, I have told you this story. It is very embarrassing, and there is home footage from the 90s to back it up, okay? When I was a little girl, I was like probably Jisung's age at 5 or 6. My brother's like 4 at that point, okay? It's hot in Arizona, like hot, like Satan's armpit hot, okay? So we used to always go up north, like 2 hours to like Prescott, Sedona, whatever. And so like we would go fishing because my dad decided that's a great thing to do with a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. My dad's probably watching here eventually. So anyway, he's great. So we're going fishing and there's literal home footage of me. I should have found this footage. And I am wearing like 2 bags because I'm super stylish, okay? And I am very scared of the fish, like very, very scared. Like, you know when they like yank, like you're holding, it's peaceful, it's calm, and then it's like, dum, and it's just like scary. And then when you pull them out, they're like flopping everywhere. That super freaks me out, you guys. Like that scares me, okay? And then you have to hold it. That's disgusting. Thank you, Jisung. But I was very scared, okay, as a kid. And so my brother's here, he's fishing, and I'm like all the way in the back, like super scared. Anyway, me and fish, not a good idea. Anyway, I think, because I don't know for sure, because I have never fished since then, that fishing's a lot of work, apparently. Okay. Now, these men did not have fishing rods. They had just giant nets that they would like. This was their living. This is how they made money to feed their family. And so here they are fishing. It's a lot of work to put down nets. And isn't there a certain time of day that fishing is better, right? Like at night or I don't know, something like that. Like, sure. But they've done this all night and they are fishermen by trade. They're experts and they've caught nothing. And here he is, this like podunk carpenter from some what town coming in being like, oh, hey, you should do it differently. Everything opposite of what you're supposed to do during the day, like after there's been no fish. Doesn't make any sense. But there's something different about this guy. Something different. He had a different kind of authority to where Peter was like, all right, I'll listen to you. When we hear Jesus, you and I, we can sit here on Sunday, okay, and I could visually see over your heads, sometimes in one ear, out the other, and I take no offense because it's not about me, right? Maybe it is. But the point being this, we can hear all we want, right? But let me ask you, the crowd also listened to him. But what makes the crowd different from a true, actual follower of Jesus? Not just willing to listen, but to be teachable, to learn to do, to respond to what he says. So let me ask you, are you hearing? Are you hearing? Is the word of God coming into your ear? Like on Sunday, when we do the Bible plans, those kinds of things, like you do have to actually hear his word, right? Like you have to have the Bible around in your life. Like you have to come and hear. You have to turn on YouTube, the live stream. Like you do have to have access, right? But when you do that, and that's good, that's important, but it can't stop there. It has to actually begin to change your life. I know most of you guys, you leave on Sunday, you're like, you know what? She's right. Because I am. Just kidding. The point being like, God, I'm going to live for God. Like that conviction, do not get tired of it. I remember being your age and getting really, like feeling really guilty and like not wanting to come to church because I felt guilty. Because I felt like every week I was hearing what I'm supposed to do and like how I'm supposed to live. And I want to do that. But then I go out and I forget. Or I like make mistakes. Or I like whatever, XYZ. I'm here to tell you, it's okay. Come back. Nobody ever gets anything on the first try. Ever. It takes a lifetime for us to learn how to follow Jesus. It takes a lifetime for us to learn how to fall in love with him. So do not be discouraged because you're like, oh, I can't do what she says and I know I want to and I should. It's okay. We're all in this together. Okay, listen, y'all. If everyone could hear the word of God every Sunday and go out and be changed forever, we would live in a different kind of world. You know what I'm talking about? Like there are so many people. Have you guys seen like white churches? They're like huge. You know how many people are in those churches? So many people. If we all could just be changed by listening alone, that would be amazing. We would live in a different world. But that's not how human beings work. We have to listen and we have to allow it to change our lives. and be willing to start working towards it. Be willing to be teachable. So here I am asking, are you willing to be teachable? Are you willing to be like, I don't understand everything she's saying or Jesus is talking about, but I'm willing to give it a try. I'm willing to hear it out. I'm willing to believe that even though I think I'm the best, probably God has something better in mind for me sometimes. Am I willing to believe that? Second, Jesus is not just teaching them, but he's cleansing them. Remember, but it's two ways. Every relationship, give and take. He does his part. Only he can cleanse them. But what else do they do? They're willing to be humble before him. After this huge fish miracle thing, that sounds like a nightmare to me. Like thousands of fish like wiggling. Okay, anyway, the point being, like Peter has like made bank. This is the jackpot for him. You know what I mean? Like he has fished enough for like a long, long time. Okay, and here he is in verse 8. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, remember he had fished all night, got nothing. Boom, this man's like, you should go over there, and whoosh, all this fish. He fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish they had caught. He realizes this is no ordinary man. This is not normal. Like this guy is something else. He's not just teaching on here, the crowd. He actually has the power to be the Son of God. Like he's realizing, whoa, like this is a different guy. How many of you ever prayed for something? Good, okay, prayers, and like it happened. Maybe not like exactly as you meant, like, but it happened, right? Okay? Like your prayers happen. Like you pray so much for it, and then it happens. And what's your first response usually? You're like really excited. But do we always like go connect that to God? Not always. We're like so excited for what God's answer. We're like, yes, I got into this school, or I did this, I did that. Woo! And like you're super excited. But most of us are like, we kind of don't go back and we're like, oh God, that was you. That was you who did that. Like, thank you for answering my prayer, doing what seemed impossible. For Peter, he was like, dang, this guy is the real deal. This is the real deal. Do you know what sin means? Another definition of sin is missing the mark. Who has ever played darts? You did not want to play darts with me? It's a dangerous endeavor, okay? You must be a risk taker. What's the point of darts? To hit the what? Bullseye, right in the middle, okay? Who can do that? Pretty sure. We need to like fact check this man's willingness to raise his hands all the time. Okay. I am not good at darts. However, I am very good at yelling to make sure it's the bullseye, okay? But the point being this, sin is missing the mark. It's like you throw, but it lands like where it lands for me, like on the wall, okay? Sin is missing the mark. Peter, James, and John, before they were the famous disciples of Jesus, they all started out as what? As sinners. Broken, messed up, prideful, screwed up men. That's what they were. You know what changed them? You know who changed them? Jesus. He's what changed them. Raise your hand, all of you should, if you are messed up, broken, and need help. That is all of us in this room. Sam has both hands up right now, like, and his feet are up too. Y'all, all of us are sinners, broken, messed up, but that is not where it ends, and that is not who we are called to be. Because of Jesus. Because of Jesus. He cleanses you, he heals you. But how does that happen to them? How? Peter was willing to be humble. He was like, whoa, like I'm going to come before you because I need that, like, salvation. I need my sin to be erased because, like, I am messed up. Y'all, Jesus came to heal us, but he only heals us when we say yes to it. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like, it is always a give and take. He never forces his way with us. God never does that. He will never force you. He will never push you. He will always be there. And he will always remind you, and he will always be gentle, and sometimes a little to your head, you need it, but he will never force you because he has made it that way, that only true love can exist when it's voluntary. You cannot love someone if they force you to love them. That's not love, that's abuse. We do not serve an abusive God. We do not know an abusive Jesus. That doesn't exist. He is willing to let the world spin off its axis and be super messed up, and people choose evil for the sake of voluntary love. I think people ask things like, how is God real if this world, look at how messed up it is. You guys know all those shootings going on right now? Like, that is messed up. You know? It's not okay. Like, there are days when I drop off my son at school and I literally have to pray, dear God, protect this school. Do not let things happen at this school. Because we live in that kind of world. You know what I mean? When you see things like that, you're just like, man, how can you believe in God? You know? And that is absolutely a real feeling and a real thought. And I do not take that lightly. And I want to offer you another perspective. Another perspective. He always was after voluntary love. He always was after the choice for us to follow him. And so he gave us the choice to also choose wrong. A lot of us have chosen wrong. We all do, apart from him. Until we humble ourselves, that's the only way. What about you? Friends, if you've lived long enough, you have come face to face with your own shortcomings, right? Like when I was 14, man, I thought I was the best. You know, actually, when I was 18, I thought I was the best, which is like half of you in this room are 18. Okay, you think you're the best, right? Like, let me tell you, once you hit like late 20s, early 30s, then you're like, dang, there's always someone smarter and prettier and faster and better, and I'm just a piece of lovely junk, you know, is what I am. Like, I really fall short of everything God asked me to do. And that's why I need him. Are you willing to be humble? Are you willing to be teachable? If you're here and you're like, I don't know, me and God, we're like not so tight right now, that's okay. But let me ask you, are you willing to be teachable? Are you willing to be humble? Because if you are, then you will experience him. You will meet him. Because you got to do your part. Yeah? Last one, part 3. Jesus leads his disciples, but they were willing to follow. You know those leaders that like, they think they're the best, but like no one wants to follow them? That is not a good leader. You know what I'm talking about? Don't be one of those. Jesus led, but they willingly followed him. Last verse, Luke 5:10. Jesus replied to Simon, don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people. And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. When we truly meet Jesus, everything changes. And notice what he said first. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Because with any act of faith, there is an element of fear, of risk. You know what they say like that? There's like this like super cheesy like white Christian church world saying, how do you spell faith? How do you spell faith? Uh-huh. Okay, my son learning how to spell, good job. They spell it R-I-S-K. That's what they say. Because you have to be willing to face your fears to have faith. Now, this is the moment. Like verse 10 is the moment when Peter switches from being part of the crowd to actually following him. He was willing to be like, I am really afraid, but I'm going to give this to you. So let me ask you, what are you afraid of? Everyone's averting my eyes right now, okay? What are you afraid of? Most of you aren't even willing to ask yourself that question because it's too unnerving to come face to face with your fear. What are you the most afraid of? When you think about God, when you think about him, what are you the most afraid of? Like, think about it. Like, sit in your uncomfortableness right now and think about it. What are you really afraid of? I'll be honest, when I was your age, okay, like 18. Who's 18? When I was your age, I was most afraid that if I lived for Jesus, like I had lots of dreams, like I was gonna do amazing things. Okay. And I was legitimately afraid that if I followed Jesus, he would make me a missionary to some Cambodian jungle. That is legitimately what I was most afraid of. I was like, I am not going to do that. You know what I was second afraid of? That he was going to make me a pastor's wife. Whoa, look what he did, yo. Okay, but that was also because I had my own things to work through. Yeah? Okay, but here's the thing. I had to face my fears. There were fears there for a reason. Most of them were kind of dumb, but like they were legitimate fears for me, and I had to come face them. You have fears too. If anyone's like, I have no fears, you are a liar, okay? You have fears. What are they? You have to acknowledge them. That's the first step to grow closer to Jesus, is to acknowledge your fears and give them to him. And next is to count the cost, because there is a cost to living for Jesus. I'm not going to come here and be like, it's so sexy, it's so great, it's so easy, everything's great about Jesus. There is a cost to living for him. There is. There is. Just like any choice that's significant in your life, there is a cost. There's a cost. All of us, there's a cost. But you have to be willing to be like, okay, what is the cost for me? Am I willing to pay that cost? Am I willing? Peter, he sat there and he was like, I am afraid, but I am willing to pay the cost, because this man, there is something different about him. If I say no to him today, I will regret this for the rest of my life. And he left everything to follow him. Left everything to follow him. There's a lot of people who talk about Gen Z and how they're not willing to live for Jesus. But I really believe every single generation, there's always been people that God has touched, that God has moved, and they are willing to follow him. That's you. The rest of the world is all this junk. But here's Jesus saying, here's what matters. I want you to count the cost. Do not follow me blindly. Yeah? Do not follow Jesus blindly. You have to count the cost. But let me tell you, that cost is worth it. But you have to think that through. Following Jesus, being teachable, being humble, being willing to follow him. As I wrap up, I want to share, I think most of you guys know my story. Some of you don't. But it reminded me, because we're heading into a season. A lot of you are graduating seniors. A lot of you are just in life right now. There's no such thing as summer break. But the point being this. I lived my life. Growing up as a Christian, I was a part of the crowd, right? Like I was always at church. I knew all the things. But I didn't actually live for him for a long time. It wasn't until the summer between high school and college that I actually legitimately had like an existential moment, and I was like, yo, I think I'm really good at faking it. And I'm really scared that now I'm going to go to college and I'm going to like fall super hard away from God. And for me, I couldn't deal with that, like two-facedness, Like I couldn't let myself do that. Like something about that was wrong. If I'm going to go hard away from God, I want to go hard away from God, Like I want to willingly do that. I'm not going to fake it. I'm going to walk away. Or if I choose to follow him, I'm going to do that hard too. It was go hard or go home, in case you're surprised. Personality is the same, okay? Go hard or go home. But I knew I couldn't do this like in between thing, And so that summer, I went to a camp, and all of you, raise your hands. I forced you to go to Fuse. There is a reason, okay? Not every retreat is the same. But do I believe it's an opportunity for you to experience God? Yes. And so I'm pushing you to go, okay? But the point being this, I went there, everyone else is praying and crying, I'm sitting here like, so should I chop an onion? Like, what should I do? Like, I have no tears, okay? Like, me and Jesus, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what to do. But what I did is I sat there and I heard the teaching, and I was just willing to be open of like, okay, let's rework all of this. Everything I ever thought I knew about Jesus, let me like be willing to be open about it. And literally, slowly over time, I decided and I realized, you know what? I think I have to actually choose to live for him. Not just because my parents pushed me to go to church, but because I actually want to choose to live for Jesus. Not church, but actually I want to choose to live for him. There was no chorus of angels. There was nothing. No feelings. I did not cry. There was no dark room playing the correct chord to make my emotions work. It did not work for me. I just made a choice. That's what I did. I said, I made a choice. And literally, though, after that, small thing after thing after thing, my life began to change. My life began to change. And I realized this is what it's like to live for Jesus. It has led me to here. I know you guys look at me and you think like, oh, it's because she's a pastor's wife, whatever. Guys, that is a bunch of baloney, okay? That is just a title. We are all broken. I have been where you are. Maybe not everything, because some of you guys live a really crazy life. I'm too tired for that at this age. But the point being, like, I want to invite you today. You are in the crowd right now, majority of you. You're here. You're in the crowd. You didn't reject him. So good for you. Good job. But being a part of the crowd is not enough. At some point, you're going to have to make a choice. Am I going to stay just a part of this crowd? Because when you know what the crowd does? You know what the crowd does? When it hits the fan, they leave, right? When things get hard, the crowd dissipates. But a follower, a true follower, they've made a choice. They have faced their fears, and they have counted the cost. And I'm here to tell you, as someone who's just a few steps ahead of you, there is nothing more worthy in this world than living for him. That is why I'm here. Why am I here doing this? Because I want you guys to experience your own version of what God has for you. Because every one of you in this room, you have a destiny. Every one of you have something in God that he wants to unfold in your life right now in this season. Y'all, it is time. It is time. You are all adults in this room. -1. You are all adults in this room. It is your time to step up, make that choice, man up, woman up, whatever it is. Do what it is. Face your fears and say, God, I am part of the crowd, but I kind of maybe want to follow you, so please, dear Lord, help me. That's all you need to do. Yeah? Be willing to be teachable, open, humble, to ultimately follow him. Can I have the praising come up? Look back at your life so far. Okay, maybe if you're young, not a lot to look back on, but look back at your life. What has led you to this point? What has led you to this point? You are not here today on accident. You are not here because I told you to come to eat my food. I mean, I did do that, but y'all are here, okay? For a reason. Because he does have something greater for you. The invitation is to know him, is to love him, is to experience being known and seen and free, and to live eternity with him, to experience life differently here on this earth because you see everything through his eyes. Because there's something more to live for. Can we all stand? What are you right now? Are you amazed? Are you curious? Are you going to reject him in 2.5 seconds, but like you're holding on because I told you to come here? I don't know where you are today. If it's guilt, do not let that stop you, because that is a lie of the devil. You hear me? If there's guilt stopping you, being like, I'm not good enough, you know what? That's perfect. That's perfect. Because church, followers of Jesus are made of imperfect people. The ones who are perfect, they don't have a place here because they don't need Jesus. You hear what I'm saying? If it's guilt, let that down right now. Just drop it off, okay? Park it at the cross. If it's fear, then be honest with yourself. What is that fear? What am I afraid of? Is it rejection? What is it? Park it at the cross. If it's, I just want to live my own way and do whatever I want, friend, park that at the cross too. The sooner you do that, the better it is in life. Because he will open up a whole different life for you. We're going to pray first, actually, before we sing. And I don't know what hit you today, okay? But I know something did for all of you. So that's what I want you to talk to him about. Just talk to him. In your heart, in your head, close your eyes, imagine him, imagine Jesus, and be like, okay, this is my fear, God. This is my guilt. This is what I'm holding on to. This is what I'm afraid of. Talk to him right now. Talk to him like you talk to a friend. Close your eyes. Only because it distracts us if we don't. You don't have to. If that helps you to focus in and talk to him right now. Jesus, hi, it's me. Fill in the blank. Here I am. Yeah, there's music in the background. Yeah, the lights are off. But the point is, I'm here to talk to you right now. It's been a long time. Do you know how many prayers I prayed that way? Dear God, it's been a long time. I'm very sorry. I'm back again. I have said many prayers like that. Start your prayer like that right now. Even praise team, all of us right now. Respond to him. God, I don't want to be a part of the crowd. I want to follow you. It's all or nothing. So show me how to be all or nothing for you. Because at some point, I have to make that choice. I can't delay it forever. And I'd rather have spent my life living for you than spent my life delaying this life-changing choice to help me to live for you right now.